Now this is my assembly bench. Once I have all the work pieces cut to the sizes and widths that I need, this is where I like to do the joint work, joining it together. Behind me, I have the sanding area. Now take a look at this. We'll work on the top first, and you'll see I have an extra workpiece here to show you how this comes together. This is the plywood top, and there's a graceful curve here, and this is glued directly onto the plywood. And look at this. These are number 20 biscuits, and you can see that there's a bit of a slot here that more than half that biscuit slips into. And then what I do is I cut a mating slot on this side, and I can glue them together with yellow wood glue and clamps, just like what you see right here. Now, this is the extra accessory or adjustable shelf. Now, I know exactly where I want my shelf, so I'll drill a series of holes in the two side pieces later and show you how those shelves go into place. But let's do some biscuit work. Here you can see I've already cut half the slots for the bottom trim board on the bookcase. See how the lines match up? I like to have them every 18 inches. Okay, now I'll use the biscuit joiner to make a cut. And you can see a red line here. Well, this red line mates to that line. And when I press the blade right into the wood, it cuts the ellipse or the slot like this. Just like that. And that's adjustable so it can work with different thicknesses of wood. You want this to be right on center. Now, wherever I need biscuit cuts, I'll make the cuts, and I'll use yellow glue to join everything together with biscuits and clamps. I've done the glue ups for the 3 adjustable shelves, the bottom case assembly, the thick shelf assembly with a 2-inch piece of trim board on the front, and the top of the case. Now, wherever you have a curve cut like that, that's done on the bandsaw. Why? Because the blade can follow the curve. It's flexible, but yet controlled. Once all the curve cuts are made for the project, it's time to sand all the parts. Be sure to wear a good dust mask. I use various sanders, but the main thing is working through the grit. I start with 100 grit, go to 150, and then finish sand with 220. Okay, now, if you look at these boards, these are for the base assembly. Over here, this will be the top trim assembly. Here's a plywood foundation. It's wrapped with beautifully figured maple that has a slight angle to it. Now, the best way to create that angle safely, I like to use a 6-inch disc sander with a 80 grit abrasive on it and just lean it up against the table, make successive passes, and then I sand it down. Now look at how we're going to join this together. You see the lines? We're going to make biscuit slots, but it's really important to have this slot cut far enough back that it doesn't hit that bevel. So I'll go ahead and finish the rest of the cuts for this with the biscuit joiner, do the glue up and the clamp up, and then it's on to the base. I have the 6 work pieces upside down that will make up the base assembly. And here, if I pull this apart, you'll be able to see what's going on. Everywhere, I have biscuits. And basically, when you have a biscuit going into a face of a board, that's called a face joint. From an edge to a face is a face joint. And here, look at this. I changed the angle on the fence of the biscuit joiner so that I could cut on this 45-degree bevel a face in directly at a 90-degree angle to the face. So the biscuit will pull the bevel joint together. I'll just go ahead and glue up the entire joint assembly using clamps. Once this is done, it's on to working with the 2 side work pieces. Here's the left side and the right side of the bookcase assembly. It's got the groove running 1/4 of an inch back from the front edge of the stiles. And what we need to do is dado work now. A dado along the top and bottom edge, and also a dado across the middle for the fixed shelf. The easiest way to do that is use a router on the workbench here. I'll bring these work pieces up. It's important that you have them oriented together, just like a book, okay? In other words, if the book was closed, now it's open. And what I'll do is line up the ends and the tape marks and the lines and then clamp it together. Now, if you look closely, you can see a series of holes. Here are the top holes, middle holes, bottom holes. And these 1/4 inch holes are needed to hold the shelf support pins that will hold the removable shelf system. You could drill a series of holes, and the easiest way to do it is with a jig at the drill press. That's how I drill the holes for the shelf assemblies. But now look at this. This is a thin piece of plywood and a utility knife. And what I like to do, butt the plywood up against the bottom edge of the bottom of the sides of the case assembly. And I like to score the plywood veneer on the top, and that will help to stop it from tearing out when we use the router to make the cuts.